Good morning, Year 6. I hope you all had an amazing weekend. I know the weather changed on us over the weekend, but hopefully you still got a chance to enjoy it. So this week we continue our work on ratio and proportion. We are looking at simplifying ratios today. We'll also be looking at equivalent ratios and scale factors before we go on to do our hot task. So without further ado, I would like you to write down the numerical date, our date in Roman numerals, and our learning intention, which is to simplify ratios. For today's lesson, you will need your pencil, paper, thinking hat, the worksheet simplifying ratios, which was emailed to you this morning, and a 5-minute timer. So for our starter today, we're going to be looking at the highest common factors. So before we can begin, we need to make sure that we are confident with what those words mean. So what is a factor? Well, a factor is a number which can be equally divided into another number. So say I had the number 12. I know that I can divide the number 12 into 3 equal groups. I would have 3 equal groups of 4, or I could divide the number 12 into 4 equal groups of 3. I could take 12 sweets and split them into 6 equal groups of 2, or 2 equal groups of 6. So 2, 6, 3, 4, those are all factors of 12. 1 and 12 are also factors of 12, because I could just keep it as one whole group with 12 in them, or I could have 12 groups with 1 in each of those groups. So 1 you'll find is a factor of every number, and the number itself is a factor of itself. So with that in mind, how can we use that to help us find the highest common factor? Well, we know the word common means two things that two people have which is similar or the same, okay? So if we looked at the number 12 and we looked at the number 16, we know that both of them have a common factor of 4, because I can split 16 into 4 equal groups of 4, and I can split 12 into 4 equal groups of 3. So 4 is a factor of both of these numbers. It's a common factor. But what would be the highest common factor? Well, it's the factor that they both share, which has the highest value. If we stick with looking at the numbers 12 and 16, we know that both of them have a factor of 1. Yeah? As we know, all numbers have a factor of 1. Both of them have a factor of 2 because they're even numbers, and we know all even numbers have a factor of 2. Both of them have a factor of 4, which we've discussed already. And if we tried to go any higher than that, like if we looked at number 8, well, although 16 has a factor of 8, 12 doesn't. So 8 is not a common factor of 12 and 16. The highest common factor that both of those numbers share is in fact 4. So when we're talking about the highest common factor, we're looking at the factors that both numbers share, which has the greatest value. So with that in mind, I'd like you now to pause the video and try to find the highest common factor of the numbers shown on screen. Excellent. Now let's go through our answers. 96 and 84 share a common factor of 12. We know that because we know our 12 times tables. We know that there are 7 12s in 84, and we know that there are 8 12s in 96. 72 and 12 also share a common factor of 12. We know the number can be a factor, the number is a factor of itself. So 12 is a factor of itself, and then 12 times 6 gives us 72, so we know 12 is also a factor of 72. 13 and 52, well, the highest common factor there is 13. 13 goes into 13 once, and 13 goes into 52 4 times. 240 and 80, the highest common factor there is 80. 80 goes into 240 3 times. It goes into 80 once. 39 and 390 have a highest common factor of 39. 39 goes into 39 once, and 39 goes into 390 10 times. 6,000 and 300 have a highest common factor of 300. 6,000 divided, or 300 goes into 6,000 20 times, and 300 goes into 300 once. 92 and 138 have a highest common factor of 46, because 46 goes into 92 twice and it goes into 138 3 times. So well done if you managed to get that. If you didn't, don't worry. You can continue to practice highest common factors by going to the website shown on screen, which is a BBC Bitesize link. If you prefer not to type in the link, you can go to BBC Bitesize prime numbers, factors and multiples, or if you were just to go to Google and type in BBC Bitesize highest common factor, then the first link that comes up will take you there. Otherwise, let's get started. So, quick recap of what we covered last week. Some questions shown on screen. I'd like you to have a go at answering them and then we'll go through the answers together. Brilliant. Let's go through them. There are 5 toffees for every 2 chocolates in a box of sweets. Now, there are 15 toffees, so how many chocolates must there be? Well, if we look at the ratio from 5 toffees to 15 toffees, we've multiplied it by 3. So we must do the same with the other number which we know of, which is 2. 2 times 3, which gives us 6. So the new ratio is 15 to 6, meaning that there are 6 chocolates in the box. Now to find out how many there are altogether, we need to add those two numbers together. So 15 plus 6 gives us 21. Number 3, what proportion or fraction of sweets are toffees? So what fraction are toffees? We know when we're talking about fractions or proportions, we're talking about how much out of the whole. We know that there are 21 altogether. So 15 out of 21 are toffees. And we must remember that we can also simplify that fraction by dividing it by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5 and 21 divided by 3 is 7. The highest common factor of 15 and 21 is 3. So that's what we divide both our numbers by when we're simplifying our fraction, and also when we're simplifying our ratios, that will come in handy too. What proportion of sweets are chocolates? So we know that when we're talking about the proportion, we're talking about how much out of the total. So there are 21 in total, 6 out of the 21 are chocolates, and the highest common factor there is 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 21 divided by 3 is 7, so we get 2 sevenths. Well done if you managed to get those. Let's go through another example. Ben the painter needs 6 litres of dark purple paint, but he's going to have to use some red and blue paint to help him make his purple paint. He uses 4 litres of red paint and 2 litres of blue paint. Write the ratio of the number of red tins to the number of blue tins in its simplest form. So here, that's quite easy. That's a ratio of 4 to 2. Now, can we simplify that ratio? Well, yes, we can. 4 and 2 have the highest common factor of 4 and 2 is 2. So 4 divided by 2 gives us 2. And 2 divided by 2 gives us 1. So that's that's the ratio in its simplest form, 2 to 1. Well done if you managed to get that. Now I'd like you to have a go at this one. Sarah has a number of white and black counters in a bag, so depending on your screen it might show as grey. Write the ratio of the number of black counters to the number of white counters in its simplest form. So I'd like you to pause the video here, and just as we did on the last one, write down the ratio and remember to simplify it. I want to see it in its simplest form. So thinking back to the beginning of the video where we looked at the highest common factor. Excellent. Let's go through the answer. So it's a ratio of black to white. So that's 3 to 9. And if we simplify that, well, we know the highest common factor of 3 and 9 is 3. So we're going to be dividing by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Well done if you got that. Now I'd like you to have a go at the ones shown on screen. We've got 25 to 30, 48 to 32, and 75 pence to £1.25. Now, with our ratios, we can only simplify them when both sides are using the same unit of measure. So bear that in mind when you have a look at example 3. Excellent. Are you ready to go through the answers? Well, let's go. If we simplify 25 to 30, we know that both of those numbers have a highest common factor of 5. 25 divided by 5 gives us 5, and 30 divided by 5 gives us 6. We can't simplify those numbers anymore, so the ratio in its simplest form is 5 to 6. Now let's look at 48 to 32. We know our times tables, don't we? So we know that both of those numbers are in the 8 times tables. The highest common factor that we can probably think of off the top of our heads is 8. 48 divided by 8 equals 6, and 32 divided by 8 equals 4. But when I look at 6 and 4, I think both of those are even numbers, and I think I can simplify them even further. I can divide them both by 2. 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. So the ratio in its simplest form was 3 to 2. Always remember to look at your ratio and think, can I simplify this any further? We could have done this. We did it in 2 steps because we knew just off the top of our heads that both these numbers were in the 8 times tables. But we could have done this in one easy step of just dividing both numbers by 16. Both of them would get us to the same answer. So either one of those are perfectly fine. Now let's look at the last one, shown on screen. 75 pence to £1.25. What do we need to do first? We need to make sure that the units of measure is the same on both sides. I can't compare 75 pence to £1.25. I need to change my £1.25 into pence because as well, when we're doing ratio, we don't really want to use decimal numbers. So instead of 75 pence to £1.25, it's going to be 75 pence to 125 pence. Now we can compare those. Now we can simplify those. Both of those numbers can be divided by 25. There are 3 25s in 75 and there are 5 25s in 125. The more familiar you get with counting in 25 will help you because it will help you to identify when a number is a multiple of 25. It's quite simple. Numbers that are multiples of 25 end in 25, 50, 75, or 100. Okay, they end in the hundreds. So 25, 50, 75, 100. And it just repeats itself. 125, 150, 175, 200. 225, 250, 275, 300. So it's really, really simple. So do try and familiarize yourself with counting in 25 so you can easily identify a multiple of 25. So now we've done that. We've managed to get our answer. We've simplified it to 3 to 5. Can we simplify it any further? No, we cannot. So there are our answers. Well done if you managed to get those. Now let's look at a set of questions. A bit more in-depth questions. I'd like you to have a go, pause the video and have a go answering the questions shown on screen. Excellent. Now let's go through the answers. So, for number 1, it says simplify the following expressions. So A is 6 to 21. How would we simplify that? Well, in order to do that, we know we need to divide both of those numbers by 3. That's their highest common factor. So we get 2 to 7. Now let's look at B, 18 to 27. What's their highest common factor? That's right, it's 9. 18 divided by 9 is 2, and 27 divided by 9 is 3. C, 14 to 56. So the answer there is 1 to 4. And for that one, you might have done it in 1 step or 2 steps. You might have looked at 14 and 56 and said, yeah, I know both of these are multiples of 7. So if I divide them by 7, then you would have got 2 to 8. And then you would have looked at those numbers again and said, but both of these are even numbers. Maybe I could simplify them even further and gone down to 1 to 4. Or you might have just divided them by 14 in one cool sweep and got straight down to 1 to 4. Now let's look at D. 108 to 144. Well, both of those numbers can be divided by 36. 108 divided by 36 is 3, and 144 divided by 36 is 4. So you might have done it that way, but if, like me, you weren't able to quickly identify that, then you might have had to have done it in 2 cool sweeps, 2 cool steps. So you might have said, both of those are in the 12 times tables. How many 12s are there in 108? How many 12s are there in 144? And then from that, divided your answer by 3. Okay? So you might have done it in 2 steps, or you might have done it in 1. Now if you look at E, 35 to 56 to 49, all of those numbers are in the 7 times tables. So our answer is 5 to 8 to 7. Well done if you got those. Let's look at number 2. It says simplify the following expressions by converting the units. We have to convert the units first. So 4 centimeters, well, to 10 millimeters. 10 millimeters and 4 centimeters, not the same unit of measure. So we need to make them the same. 10 millimeters we know is the same as 1 centimeter. Grab your ruler and check if you don't believe me. So now we've got them the same, 4 centimeters to 1 centimeter. Can we simplify any further? No, we can't. So our answer is 4 to 1. B, 60 centimeters to 1 meter, 5 centimeters. Well, we know that 1.05 meters is the same as 105 centimeters because we just multiply that by 100. So 105 centimeters is what our new number is. So 60 to 105. How might we divide that? Well, we know if a number ends in 0 or 5, then it's a multiple of 5. So you might have done it that way and divided it by 5 and then divided it again. Or you might have just realised straight away that you could divide it by 15. So there are 4 15s in 60 and there are 7 15s in 105. To C, 3 kilograms to 1,200 grams. We know that the prefix kilo means 1,000 times greater than a gram. Okay, so kilograms would be 1,000 times greater than a gram. So 3 kilograms is the same as 3,000 grams. 3,000 grams to 1,200 grams. Well, we can simplify that down to 5 to 2 if we make sure that we divide both of those numbers by 600. Okay, both of those numbers, 3,000 divided by 600 is 5, and 1,200 divided by 600 is 2. Now let's look at D. 2 hours to 80 minutes. We know that 2 hours is the same as 120 minutes. So 120 minutes to 80 minutes, both of those, 12 and 8, we know they both have a common factor of 4. So if we divide them both by 40, we get 3 to 2. Now let's look at number 3. 125 men and 150 women are at a wedding. Write this as a ratio of men to women in its simplest form. So, remember what I said about counting in 25s? Yep, so both of these numbers have a highest common factor of 25. They're both multiples of 25. So, 125 divided by 25 gives us 5. And 150 divided by 25 gives us 6. So our new ratio is 5 to 6. A painter mixes 65 litres of red and 15 litres of blue paint to get purple paint. Write this as a ratio of red to blue in its simplest form. So we've got 65 to 15 at the moment. Looking at those numbers, we know both of them are multiples of 5. How do we know that? They both end in 5. There are 13 5s in 65 because we know that 12 times 5 is 60. And there is 3 5s in 15 because 3 times 5 equals 15. So our new ratio is 13 to 3. And lastly, a model of a plane is 30 centimeters. The real plane is 60 meters. So a model is when we look at we look at a real life object and it's mammoth size, and we try and create a smaller version of it, but we have to try and make sure we match it up and use a scale, which we're going to be looking at later on in the week. And we need to write this as a ratio of model to real life in its simplest form. So we need to make sure that we are using the same unit of measure. So if we look at our model plane, we're going to take our 60 meters, and if we convert that into centimeters, remember we need to multiply it by 100, we end up with 6,000 centimeters. So now we've got a model plane. Our model to our real life is 30 to 6,000. Now, if we write this in its simplest form, we know our factor is not going to be any higher than 30. We know that. But we also know that 30 is a factor of 6,000, and we know that because 3 goes into 6. So, how many 30s are there in 30? Well, there's 1. And how many 30s are there in 6,000? There are 200. So our new ratio is 1 to 200. Now I've got some more challenges for you. I want you to find the missing numbers of the ratio shown on screen. So we've got 12 to 7, 36 to and the ratio of men to women in a sports club is 7 to 11. If there are 175 men, then how many women are there? Pause the video and have a go answering these questions. Brilliant. Let's go through the answers. Well, to get from 12 to 36, we multiply by 3. So 12 times 3 is 36, so 7 times 3 is 21. The ratio of men to women in a sports club is 7 to 11. If there are 175 men, how many women are there? So in order to work this out, we know we're looking at the ratio of men to women. We've got 7 men to every 11 women. Now, if we've got 175 men, then what have we had to multiply that by to get to 175? Well, we multiplied it by 25. So now 11 times 25 gives us 275. So our new ratio is 175 to 275. There are 275 women in the club. So what next? I'd like you to have a go at simplifying ratios using the worksheet that was sent to you this morning. So you'll see you have a picture on the screen, and you'll need to make sure, looking at the ratios shown in the pictures, see which one matches which colour and then colour that in. So say we had 6 to 9. 6 to 9 is the ratio shown in the picture. You'd have to think, well, 6 to 9, what would that be in its simplest form? Well, the highest common factor of 6 and 9 is 3. So there are 2 3s in 6 and 3 3s in 9. So that would be 2 to 3. So I'd need to colour that section yellow, looking at the key on the left-hand side. Once you've done that and you've got your amazing artwork with the colours done correctly, I'd like you to email us your work at yr6@grange.harrow.sch.uk. Have an amazing day. Bye.